Hello, everybody. Joe Law here from Analog Man Cave, and happy Tuesday night. As I'm recording this, it's about 10 o'clock here, sitting in my man cave. Uh, Vader's here observing me silently, ready to kick my ass if I fuck this up again. It's the third time I tried to record this video. I keep stammering and sputtering all over the place, so I'm sparing you from all that crap. Anyway, the topic of the day, gatekeeping your game table. Now, it's an interesting one because I know it's going to cause a lot of bullshit. Oh, you shouldn't gatekeep, and that's wrong, and you're a fascist, whatever the fuck you. Anyway, what I'm talking about is different than gatekeeping the hobby. All right. I'm not talking about keeping people out and having some kind of a purity test. All right. Gatekeeping has a real bad connotation. It's all you're really doing is just being selective. You know, the definition of gatekeeping is something to the effect of controlling access to something, right? So what I'm doing is I'm controlling access to my game table, but not to the hobby. All right. I'm curating. I'm not excluding people based on something. The way I look at it, as I said in the title here, like RPGs are for everybody. Role-playing games are for everyone. D&D is for everybody. But my game table may not be, and yours probably isn't either. You know, each game table, each group of people, it has a certain vibe, like a culture, right? You need to protect the culture of the game table. All right. It's not based on elitism. It's things like, how old you are, when you started playing, and did you play with Gary or not? If not, if you're any more than two separations away from Gary, then we're not playing with you. You haven't read all the Appendix N books, forget about it. You're just being a dick. Then it's not based on some sort of identity or anything like that. It's not like, oh, you're not a real gamer, and it's not based upon purity politics about editions, or if you have good dice or bad dice. And again, it's not a banishment from like the game itself. It's just a choice that for this group, this campaign right now, you're not the good choice for it, right? If I'm running a Gonzo campaign and you're a Gonzo kind of player, that's perfect. If you're a real serious player in a Gonzo campaign, it ain't going to work too well, right? So, and that leads me to the real point of this: is why do you gatekeep? Why would a DM gatekeep his table? The number one reason is so that everybody has fun. Okay. Like, think about this: whoever went to college or went to like these massive keggers, in a frat house or otherwise, it comes to mind because I had to pick up and drop off my nephew from college, and there was a kegger going on where we picked him up from, and I was like, Jesus Christ, I couldn't even imagine that kind of a thing again. I like a few people to come over, have a drink, kick back, listen to music, talk, relax. I'm not into like 300 random ass strangers showing up with the red cups, right? That's the kind of thing I'm talking about here. That's the perfect metaphor for all this. You want to put together a group that everybody's comfortable with. Okay. What you're trying to do is create the perfect game group. You're going to be with this group, hopefully, and like in my campaign, for years. I don't run anything that's short. A short campaign for me is like 2 years. Hopefully 4 or 5 years these campaigns are going to run. And maybe, if these folks are good, they'll join in my next campaign, right? Maybe make friends for life here. A group that stays together that long, the main requirement is fun. You have to have fun. And you can't have fun with just anybody, right? Everybody knows this. This is common sense. You cannot have fun with just any random ass person that you meet on the street, right? So you want to do is maintain this tone and the fun for the long-term viability of your campaign. You want it to be a freaking legendary campaign is what it really comes down to. Think about it. You put a lot of work into this. If you're running a deep immersive campaign with a bunch of idiot murder hobos who join later, it's just going to screw up the game, waste everybody's time, waste your time. You might as well be playing like Diablo or have some AI DM like Wizards of the Coast wanted to have, right? And the other thing too is the other players put a lot of time in as well. They don't want some idiot coming in and blowing up whatever delicate political situation they've been involved with for 13 game sessions by walking into the room and just dropping a nuke on them or a fireball or something like that, right? So that's the thing. Everybody needs to be, gelling together and cohesive. You want to, weed out the weirdos. Say that 3 times fast. Weed out the weirdos, the dickheads and the wackadoos, all those type of people, who are just like, you could just tell they're gonna just pop off. There's a lot of fucking freaks out there in the hobby. I gotta admit, God bless, but Jesus Christ, there's a lot of fucking freaks in the hobby. So You need to have compatible personalities, and the play styles have to match, and the expectations have to be given and agreed to. Now, your job is to set the expectations. That's the main thing you got to do right at the outset with the folks is describe the kind of game you're going to run, the style, right? Is it old school? Is it new school? Is it heavy role play or a lot of tactical combat? Is it rules as written, or is it rulings over rules? Little things like that are going to help you to ensure like that your expectations and their expectations are all in alignment before you even start rolling dice. Okay. If they have experience, hopefully they might, that's good if they do. They might be able to tell you the type of game they like to play or the type of PCs they like to play. That's great. If you can get that out of them, that's a great thing. You can see right off the bat. One thing I'd recommend is just as an expectation, no talk of sex, religion, or politics at the table unless you've been playing together and it's developed over time where that's comfortable, right? Especially at the beginning of any campaign. You don't want to do that. You want to tell the people right up front, nothing like that at the table, just to start it out. Because why cause friction at the beginning, right? But again, before all that expectation stuff, you got to figure out these people, their personality. Now, the best way for me is I used to be in sales and face-to-face interactions back in the day. It's like that movie, The Intern, where those two old guys they get to go work as Google's interns and they're like hardcore salesmen, and they had to talk to people in these Google apprentices, whatever, interns rather. They don't know how to talk to anybody, and so there was a nice little mix there. My thing, I'm more like those Google guys, right? I like to talk to people in person. I've learned how to read people pretty well. So for me, I'm going to hit a bar, I'm going to hit a coffee shop, whatever their drink of choice is. Make eye contact. See if they make eye contact back. See if they shake your hand like a man. Even if they're a woman, shake my hand like a man. Jesus Christ, I don't want no cold, wet fish in my hand. And you don't even have to tell them what you're looking for in terms of their personality. Just try to read the person. Try to figure it out. Hang out for a while. See if you have a good time. See if they're smart. See if they're stupid. See if they're fun. See if they're boring. See, there's all these little things you can figure out. Talk to them. Ask them a lot of questions. For example, my table isn't for anybody who probably ever use an X card, right? If someone is going to be triggered by anything or needs safe spaces, they're not going to be a good fit because in my game, I like to get into shit that's probably going to trigger people, right? I'm not, not the really, really bad stuff, but it's going to be bad. And I'd rather not have to walk on eggshells around certain types of people. So, yeah, I'm going to weed that type of person out. It's no criticism. It's not a condemnation. It just is the type of game that I'm going to run means that you're going to have a heart attack. You're going to stroke out if you're playing at my table. That's really what it comes down to, right? So once you get into all this and, you meet the person and you get to know them a little bit and, you get a read, you think about them and you see that they have a good firm handshake, right? And you've talked a little bit and figure out what they might like. Next thing to do is run a quick one-shot adventure with them. An hour, it's a couple hours. That's it, 2 hours, right? Have them roll up a character just to get the feel of the rules, but you're also getting a feel of how they play the game. Now, if their experience is going to show, if they're inexperienced, that's cool. You get to help them out. You're their first imprint. They're their first impression of how the game should work. So you have a lot of leeway. Now you're just working with personality, not bad pasts, DMs and bad past groups and stuff like that, right? So. And then if that works out well and you think, hey, all right, you passed the first test, then you introduce them to the group and you might, run a session with them. Let the group know, hey, this guy's coming and, he seems all right. I ran a game. He survived. That's a good thing, right? And it seemed like an all right person, right? So you say, let's give it a shot. You need a new, character. So-and-so dropped out, whatever the case may be. So you run a game with them, right? You hop in the group and they play, see if they have a good time, see if they gel. You run 3-4 hours and at the end of it, you should have told them in advance that, listen, this is up to a group vote. If anybody says no, then it's no. You got to trust the group. You put that group together, right? So you're screwing them over if you don't trust their judgment as a whole. Talk about it, though. I screwed up on this front a long time ago. I was playing back in this Moe's burrito place, like I was telling you guys, because it was the only place I could find that was open at a good time downtown New Haven. And I remember there was a game there, and this chick walks up, redheaded chick. Now, like James Radji, I guess I got a thing for redheads. He was cute as hell too. Jesus Christ. Anyway, yeah. So oh, you're playing D&D? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm like, yeah. So I was just opening the game to anybody who would say join in, right? So she had a couple friends, so they all joined the game. Next thing you know, I got like 10 people. I didn't give a shit about the group cohesion. I just cared about the redhead and a nice ass. I mean, it was it was just bad. It was just a whole bad scene, and it kind of went to shit. The whole game went to shit after that, you know. It was a shame, really. People had to drop out. People who liked it, it was my own damn fault. You know, you never follow the redhead with a nice ass. Is really what it comes down to here. So, you know, trust the group, guys. That's really what it comes down to, I think. So, and then if they vote no, they're off the island. If they vote yes, yeah, let them know that you play. But again, let them know too that this is they're on probation basically, right? So if they screw up, they start being a dick. If they come drunk next time, just because they were good one session means they're going to mean they're good for another. And so things to look for too. The green flags, the good flags, all right. If they share the spotlight with other characters, if they talk to the DM, hey, how can I do this better? If they're there on time, they show up. And they're not dicks when you make a ruling. Cool, you're doing well, right? You got a good one. If some people like the yellow flags, they're on the phone all the time or always stacking dice, texting people if they want to always, try to, it's not bad. It's just they're not there. They're not present, right? If they're always trying to, grab the spotlight or something, but they're not being a dick about it, that's like maybe you could work with this, right? If they're late or whatever, but they have stuff going on, and they let you know, you talk about it. So the yellow flags are things like, you're aware of the signs. Maybe you could talk to the person, figure it out, say, hey, listen, here's what's up, man. You're here half an hour late every time. What's going on? You talk, you figure it out. And, sometimes you could work something out, sometimes not. Well, so be it, right? But, on the so be it things, I mean, the red flags, like if they keep pushing your fucking buttons, they keep pushing boundaries, they keep testing you, if they're assholes, if they're like bullies or racist or harassing people or mocking other people, that's a fucking no, flat out. Doesn't do it. If they're bottom line, if they're screwing up the fun at the game table, they're out of the game. That's it. Then you got to tell them to leave. Not all people are great fits for all tables. There is a game table out there. You got to tell them this, right? Here's a good thing. There's a game table out there that's perfect for everybody, and this one just isn't you for some reason. It's nothing against you. Now it may not be the case anyway, but it'll make them feel better, right? They could be just a fucking lunatic, and they're not good for any game table. But you just don't put it that way, right? Because who knows? They might be a freaking mass shooter these days. Jesus Christ. Anyway, yeah, look at it this way: basketball players aren't great baseball players, and vice versa, right? Everybody has their own niche. That's really what I can't believe I used a sports analogy for D&D video. Jesus Christ, and I ain't gonna go over well. But and that's the way it is, right? And so now keep in mind all these things I'm throwing out there, it doesn't really apply to everything you can be involved with. It's not every environment, right? For example, you're doing a one shot at a game store, you need a quick pickup group, maybe one or two games to test the module out there, an adventure that you're running or writing. That's fine. That's fine. You're not going to look for and be so goddamn picky. You can pretty much put up with anybody for a session or two. It's not a big deal. Maybe even a month or so, if you're just screwing around with something. And same thing with a game con, right? I'm going to be running a game at ShireCon. I can take what I get, right? And hopefully they're all good. And some are going to be a lot of experience. Some are going to have no experience. Some are first timers. Some are old people, young people, kids, whatever. You just roll with the punches and try to give everybody a good time in the 3 or 4 hours you got. So that's a different thing here. But if you do all this sort of thing, I think it'll work out well for you because you'll have a good game table, you have a good group. Nobody's raising their X card or anything like that. You're not having panic attacks and people fleeing the table in tears because of whatever the hell, and you just have a good cohesive group that has fun. They all get along. You're putting together a little mini friend group. Is really what it comes down to. If they're not friends now, they might be future friends later. And yeah, and keep that in mind. Not all people are great for every campaign. There are some people, even friends I have now, that I know I would love to play with them in a certain kind of campaign, and I wouldn't hate to play with them in another kind of campaign. It's just the way it is. Everybody's different. They're great friends, it's just that they're not great for every campaign that I either DM or play in. So it's really what it comes down to, you know. So keep all this, guys, in mind. And if you listen this long, please click like and subscribe. I really appreciate that. It helps with the algorithm and all that stuff. It really does, actually. So I really would appreciate that. Share it around and, you know, talk about it. Throw out a comment in there. What do you think? What do you do? What is your take on all of this? Have you ever had a problem with people? You ever had to kick them out? You know, let me know. Let me know. I'd like to hear your comments, guys. All right. But thank you very much for listening this long. I do appreciate it. And I will talk to you next time.